tackle here. Can you record? Are you recording as well? Okay.
You are live because I was looking at the creator dashboard when you went live. I just need to work out how to get the link. Which is a different question.
Wait, let me
right.
wait the link. I have to switch. It's alright, we got there in the end.
You are the audio is live on the thing. Can you please?
Okay. Let's take a look at Yeah. Okay, cool.
Alright, cool. So it seems as though there's demand for me to do the casting, so I shall step up to the task. Right, so if everything is from your end, should I stop the stream in the VC right now?
Twitch is not picking up your voice, Dan. Twitch is not picking up your voice. Oh, okay, fair enough.
Now you should be able to hear my voice. So that's the difference. I just need to turn myself down slightly on here because the mixes. Yeah. Anyway.
Oops, I might have. Yeah, I think join, guys. If you can join Twitch, please do so that it makes like in terms of like things not crashing on us.
Yeah. But no, it should be transition now. You can see the little matchup in the lobby.
Yep. Thank you, Lauren, for the link, because I too do not have that link.
But yeah, game 1 happened. KCL won off of late game, from what I could see from whilst I was sorting out scenes. But no, big matchup, of course, between the two of them. Hull, of course, having been undefeated during the regular season.
Yes, I think this is the first match Hull has lost in this entire tourney run.
Yeah, basically. I mean, there is obviously, you can sort of chalk it down to the way the groups have been. Given, I mean, Hull had pretty decisive wins overall, pretty much playing off the back of Messiah's Greninja the entire time, topping damage charts completely, which I think is the main thing. But we're going to go into the draft now, see what happens round 2.
Yes, let's see if there's going to be any adjustments. It seems as though KCL is going with the same comp, which I don't see why they need to change since it works so well for them in the first match.
Yeah, I mean, if it isn't broke, then there is no reason to fix it. Although this is a pretty big change up from Hull, which is very interesting given the fact that in the regular season they basically didn't change their composition at all. So this is something very new. Of course, we still do see Spider-Melon on the Mamoswine, which has basically been played every single game, so there's still some consistency there, but for the most part, double support Tita looking to make sure they have that end game locked up. Yeah, no Gren.
I think this is the first time that Messiah is not on Gren in this entire season, so I'm looking forward to see what this Tita can do.
It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. Of course, from what I was aware of, I think you managed to watch far more of last game than I did, but if I'm not mistaken, Hull did have the early game lead?
No, actually. I believe it was KCL because the Greninja got shut down during its first and second gank. Very effectively by the jungling Espion.
Shows how much. I just saw a few score numbers inside of my screen for the time being. I forget, I'm meant to be observing this as well at the moment, but here we are. Jungle getting started pretty standardly from both sides.
Yeah, Elder Ghost helping clear with EXP share just to make sure they can get the levels up in time.
There you go. Early stack coming off from
First stack.
Second stack going in. See if they'll get punished at all. Few little Swift Stars coming up from Pyromaniac. There's the Ice Shot to freeze and the escape of the tackle.
There we go. There's freeze lane down in bottom, so it's going to be quite difficult for any secures and ganks by the jungler. And considering that the jungler is a Tita, the Puberta stage is going to be quite difficult until it evolves into Tyranitar.
Yeah, Dark Pulse can still do a decent amount of damage, but of course far, far weaker than the Tyranitar. And of course once Tyranitar hits that beloved level 13, even more strength to come. So Bird's going to be spawning. She'll be mostly secured by KCL. Pip up Pathway going straight into the back line. Going to get one knockout, possibly two. Comfey manages to remount onto the Swinub, although there is still more damage to come with 3 versus 1. Effectively gets the kill and onto the Comfey as well. So a huge pickup from KCL, netting a massive 68-70 score in the early game.
Yeah, it seems as though this early game gang seems to have played out quite similarly to round 1, in which the lane that the jungler was ganking has gotten completely taken out.
A little bit of a fight back here, but of course you are an XP deficit given the play that did just happen with the jungle pressure. So you have to go back to farming, and of course with Pupitar, yeah, you're gonna need to keep farming.
You gotta keep farming until you evolve. And you should keep farming because if not, the first objectives would snowball very quickly in KCL's favor as well.
Ooh, very nice Ice Fang there coming up to pick up the Blissey kill. Allows for a few more scores here. I don't think A9 can actually get 30 in. 1v1 versus the Sylveon and the Pyrosphere.
I think
a lot of damage.
Sylveon is overextending a little bit.
Ice Fang pulls the Sylveon out. Can't heal over that. There you go. Another score. And I think by now, this Pyrosphere should actually have all of their stacks. I mean, this is the power of the classic freeze lane, as you call it. A lot of CC and dueling power at this sort of early mid game, very, very strong in this area. So, again, Hull has to kind of resist the storm. They are playing with this sort of carry Tyranitar comp, and people don't going in like that is not exactly what you see, giving more over more XP to KCL.
As you can see, there's a level advantage that's starting to snowball in the favor of KCL. We have Piplup Prophet at level 9 as a Blastoise, and that means there's at least 2 Unite moves on the side of KCL and none at Hull at the current moment.
Interesting. Okay, Lucky gets down top side, that's going to push back. Looking for a chase here,
Piplup
probably
looks like it's getting
push.
bullied out of the jungle.
Pupitar still not evolved yet, which is going to
Not
be a bit
evolved,
concerned.
yeah. It needs to go back to jungle, I
You
think,
really
rather
can't
than
take this fight. This is very risky, but they're going to try it anyway. Mamasoy going to drive forces. So they're having to back out. Oh, realizing this may not be the fight they wanted to take. Tried to go for the steal. So I'm going to get cut down to 50% health. KCL may be looking for a push. All 5 members here. There's the Blastoise Unite onto free, combined with the Espeon. And that's a complete team wipe. Going to pop down the first goal in the meantime as well. Trying not to calculate it incorrectly. There you go.
There we go, we don't want any more mats issues.
We have had plenty of those in regular season, I think. Pupitar finally going to get the evolve here.
We have a Tita in play. Maybe that things can start turning in Hall's favor because there's currently 0 points scored by them.
Yeah, 0 points by this sort of mark is not something particularly characteristic of Hull given their regular series performance. Picking up Sylveon a little bit. Actually going to get collapsed on. There's the Blastoise, having to pop the X speed to get out. Blastoise was just spin right after that.
But this comp on KCL side seems it's difficult to break through. There's 2 very strong defenders in the form of Mamoswine and Blastoise, along with the Elder Gods to provide supports, and lots of snipers in the form of the Espeon and the
a little bit of a misposition. We got Death pushed, and I think the Death is going to come. KCL, the Reapers right here versus Hull. Looking for Giratina, gonna claim Death itself, and then Mamoswine next on the block, along with a little Comfey. Wiping the whole team, just Tita and Sylveon left in the bottom lane. A9 able to defend that side, and that's a Regieleki secured. Okay, that's alright. Going on to Fox. Just back up onto the goal zone. Maybe there's an angle for a push here. To finally have some
I
power
mean, it
citrus
looks like
berries.
they can take the push for this. They can take the push for this since there's only the Mammoth with the Comfey. And half of Hall down trying to break bottom goal. But it
Looking
looks
for
like they're
lucky
getting
here.
pushed
Does
out
go
as
in.
well.
Sylveon manages to escape the Espeon Unite, but oh well, spoke a little bit too soon as they decide to stay around for a little bit longer.
United to save T-Tar, but they still have yet to break the tier 1 goal zone.
Yeah, it was a nice try. Of course, the problem is the Mamo once they're able to get down, is able to be pretty tenacious on that goal zone. And here comes the punish. T-Tar getting locked up within the Blastoise Unite. Spin, spin, spin onto the Comfey. Cannot remount. Manages to, but it's a little bit too late. And KCL will get another team wipe into a Registeel.
Yeah. If I was in a position of Hall, I wouldn't be taking any of these team fights. I would ignore the objectives and just be feeding that T-Tar. Because T-Tar right now is only at level 10, and if they want to stand a chance in the Ray team fight, they need to get that T-Tar as high as possible.
Yep, level 10. A9 is also level 10, but if you compare to the higher levels, of course, they're all at 13. They just being at 11, so a little bit stronger now. You really want to try and get 13, but I'm not sure how easy that's going to be with 50-odd seconds before the final stand. Just going to be farm time as well. Make sure you get those Unites all charged up. Aleki will spawn for the Ray spawns, and this will be an objective likely secured by KCL. I think it would be unwise for Hull to try and contest that for the time being. And we're just staying on the bot side.
But we see Hall's T-Tar is making his way up.
I mean, the best thing for you to do here would probably be to try and get this farm, but you're going to engage as a 4. Sylveon's not here just yet, and T-Tar going first means they're just going to get ice fanged into the waiting arms of KCL. Mamoswine pops Unite, looks for the engage. There's the Sylveon to follow. Dubious DSK getting KO'd by the Mamoswine. A little bit of hope for Hull so far, actually, taking down one member of KCL, but as their Blissey drops, so does the rest of their team. Geoleki will decide to despawn itself. Blastoise living with the focus band. Comfey Mamoswine incredibly durable right now, but I'm not sure if he'll be able to withstand the onslaught. That is the rest of KCL. Comfey just able to remount to the T-Tar, not level 13 yet, but survives, and now you're in a bit of a weird position.
We are. There's not enough on both sides to take the Ray fight, so the fight is happening. Oh, Comfey gets knocked down.
That was a bit of a mistake there to dismount off the safe T-Tar that you just sat on the entire time. Now you're down Comfey, Hull having to stall, but the problem is Hull needs to do the objective.
Yeah, Hull needs it more than KCL. KCL knows that they are far ahead. They have broken all of the tier zones from the top lane.
The engage coming through. I mean, there's so much damage coming out from KCL. BFO besides just going to drop.
Down.
There's the Mamo into the back line on both sides. Spider-Man going to get cut down, and likewise with KCL's Mamo, but you've zoned off the rest of their team, and therefore you now have priority over the objective.
Yep, it looks like that's a near team wipe. Sylveon unable to get back in.
Okay, Sylveon looking for it. I mean, it's just the zoning power from Blastoise here.
Yeah, KCL is wise enough not to start the objective. They know they are ahead and they don't want to give Hall a comeback potential. But everyone from Hall has started to respawn, but it looks like there might not be enough time to take out Ray. And it looks like KCL is aware of that as well, and they started to guide their low goals.
You can take down the Ray before the clock hits 0, but you can't actually score unless you get people in position. And at this point, I don't even know if Hull's actually going to be able to get the secure. Who will get it in the end? It will be the Eldegoss on KCL. Just the rub in the salt there. Gets the secure. 5 seconds left on the timer. KCL closes out the series.
Closes it out with a whole team wipe, actually. The Mamo getting taken up with the KCL's Mamo right on the dot.
There it is. Very clean game coming out from the second seed.
Oh,
the was it Rotom division, I think?
Yep, very clean victory, clean team fights. Oh, look at the deficit. It was a snowball.
Oh yeah. Massive lump there. Actually, huge amount of damage coming out from both Blastoise and Espeon this game. Really big players all around, actually. And showing off the fact that KC are one of the most adaptable teams in draft right now with a composition they have never pulled out before.
Yeah, I think this is might be the first match where God of War doesn't come out from their side.
Yeah, of course, God of War, of course, being one of the most played mons in the entire tournament.
Exactly. So it seems as though we have 1 hour now before before the match between UCL and Oxford begin.
Again, I am very sorry.
Yeah, there's a few things we can talk about in the meantime. As
Yes,
I mean, can bring this up. A few little things
Right, so
listed
we
around.
have KCL's captain here, and let me just message Messiah if they're still up for
Yep.
joining us in the chat. Right, so we have a list of questions. I've sent both captains the questions that we are going to discuss, so they have had time to prepare.
Time. Sent like what? How long ago?
Right, we're just waiting for Sean, who says he'll be in. He'll be in for at a while, just finishing up the chat. Right, so I noticed in your team comp, this is probably the first week where you guys did not play God of War at all, and so a little bit surprised by that. But what was your main objectives coming to the match? Were there any particular players that you were targeting, and how did your comp reflect in that preparation?
We mainly were trying to prepare for, I think, jungle invading Sableye. We up until this point we haven't actually had any issues with it, but we really had to like prepare for it. Luckily, it didn't show up, so we really didn't have to worry too much. But another Pokemon that we had to prepare for was the Greninja. Being that like our main damage dealers are dealing from the back, like God of War, and in the games that we played Sylveon, they end up being very fragile and like dying very easily to a gank by Greninja.
Yes, I noticed that
Somebody
your
say Greninja?
I noticed you guys were specifically targeting the Greninja from Hall side because I noticed that the SPN only ever united whenever the Greninja got anywhere
Yeah.
close to the team.
I was very worried about dying. And as seen in that last game when I died, it was like a 35-second timer before I was back up. So it would be very like detrimental.
Yeah, yeah, that was quite. I guess you timed your unites quite well for that. And just the same question to you, Sean. So I was just asking, and coming in for the semifinals match, were there like any particular players or characters that you were worried, and how did your team comp reflect that? Because I noticed that you guys in the series for the round robin mostly stuck to the same characters, but you guys changed it up for the second match against KCL.
Yeah, we hadn't actually played one yet. I mean, we had in practice games and in scrims and stuff, but we hadn't actually played a Rapid Urshifu in tournament yet. And doing a little bit of research, saw that there was a less than 0 chance of going against one, which threatened the vast majority of our attack. So we went a little bulkier and tried to kind of work specifically around, okay, if it's surging striking in our flux zones, do this. If it's doing this, do this. If it's so on and so forth, there's more of a flowcharty type thing around it. Sod's Law dictates that obviously it didn't turn up at all, but
Sometimes that
Yeah,
happens.
that's
Can't
quite
always
funny
win the
because
rock paper scissors, can you?
yeah, it's quite funny because KCL was saying that they were really worried about jungle invade Stabilize, which did not appear in the end as well. So you guys were both preparing for things that did not appear in your matches in the end.
Um, the other general concern was our team comp does not do that well in Blast Place, especially not as rapid spin kind of all roundery type. Mamo gets kited around pretty easily. I can't do anything to it until it gets low, and the rest of our attack kind of just gets hunted down. So hence the Slowbro game one to try and kind of limit its output a little bit with Amnesia and with its and with Slowbro ult. Didn't quite go according to plan, but that was the between that and Espeon anyway were the reasonings for the Slowbro pickup. Solid to try and target and remove like the main issues around Rayfight.
Yes, I can see that KCL went with a very bulky comp, which makes it a bit difficult for Greninja to do its assassin things. You know,
Yeah.
gets secure poaching kills gets a bit harder when things are a bit too thick to poach. So, and I noticed for Hall, you guys had a very drastic team change for your second match. You chose to go with the Tyranitar, protect the president comp as opposed to the Greninja. So what was the main objective behind that? Was that targeted specifically for the Blastoise and the Mammal?
It was primarily Blastoise and Eldegoss. It's just solely as a reasoning to try and get past the massive amount of shields. And you know, if push comes to shove, try and score to a point where I might be able to start defending if Ray was lost. Also, hence the double support that we tried to run into it.
Yes,
It's kind of more of a double raid boss type comp instead of a more quote unquote balanced one.
Yes, there was quite a lot of support coming for the T-Tar in that second match. And I guess from the KCL side as well, you guys were you guys aware that Hall would be changing up their comp in this manner, or we just focus on just continuously preparing for a potential jungle invade Stabilize and the Greninja to come out?
Yeah, we were kind of expecting maybe a different team comp, but we knew that our team comp had worked, so we stayed with it. If we needed to, like, if it went to a third game, we would have definitely changed a few things around. But I think mainly we were just sticking to worrying about Sableye and just trying to get that early game.
Yes, and thank you guys for that match. It was very exciting 2 matches, and the team fights were very excellent. And is there anything else that you guys want to point out about the match that we as casters and the viewers probably didn't see?
That's a question. I really don't know.
Yeah, I'm on the same field. I'm not.
Yeah.
All right.
Nothing.
All right then.
No.
All right then. Is there? Okay, I'll let you guys go in a bit. Is there any other shout outs or thanks that you guys as captains would like to give in the stream before we end this?
Yeah, he wasn't here today because it's his birthday weekend. But huge shout outs to Ben or BFO Oinkers for filling in on quite a few occasions, quite literally 11th hour, and being able to drop things and say, yeah, where do you want me? Which there have been at minimum 2 weeks where we might have not necessarily had to forfeit, but it would have been pretty difficult to play if he didn't show up. So absolutely huge from him. And obviously the rest of the BFO crew for being, well, and obviously the wonderful people and wonderful Unite players that they are, but also for helping us out a fair amount with scrim-related stuff, with a bit of strategy stuff for the players that we had that were fairly new to the game itself, and especially fairly new to some of the characters they've been playing. So I mean, all of those guys are invaluable.
Great, thank you very much, Sean. And from KCL's side, is there anyone you would like to thank or give special shout outs to?
Yeah, of course, all of my players for playing really well both those games. All of the supporters for not substitutes who might have actually ended up having to play that very last game if it happened. And specifically shout out to Trent for being huge supporters. I love them, and we are big Trent fans in KCO.
That's a very sweet way to end off. Thank you very much, captains of
Thank
Paul
you.
and KCL, for joining us. And viewers, if you're still around, we are not ending right now. We still have a bit of time to kill, so we'll be reviewing the match with what surprised us and some thoughts over it, and we'll be discussing some of the details regarding these two teams and some key details about the next team that's going to be playing, which is going to be UCL versus Oxford.
Yeah, general details. And I think a little bit of a general, I guess, overcap. Oh, I mean, I guess it's an overcap. You can call it that. Overview of the entire tour so far as well. Just a few little points there too.
And we will see you after these messages.
Indeed.
Yes, we will see you guys. Have a good break. You guys definitely deserve it. So, right, we're going to be moving on to looking at the two matches. So, Dan, what was the thing that stood out the most for you for? James is saying we should go to stream VC just to make things a bit quieter.
No, my well, actually,
is it from? Let me see.
It's from your end because I'm on streamer
It's
mode,
from me.
so
Okay.
I'm not actually getting any Discord audio outside of just voices. I don't get pings or anything right now.
It's
so
just me
it's coming through from you somehow.
That's a bit of an issue from my end.
But no, it still might be easier to go to that one. Although, having said that, I can't actually join it, so one of you admins will have to move me.
Oh, you can't join stream. You can't join stream.
No.
Wait, let me just.
But I do have the lovely doc up for all of you to see. Very, very nice doc.
Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah. Now I can hear you just fine.
Oh, fantastic! All right. Yeah, and I'm surprised there was no Gardevoirs in from KCL side, because Gardevoir has appeared in every single week for that team. They have not, the player who plays Gardevoir has played it without fail every week, and they have done lots of damage, but they have instead opted out for the Ninetales this week.
I mean, if we just look at Gardevoir stats in general, it's the most played Mon in the entire tournament across all games, 55. Here, as it says on the doc, so very, very high presence, and for a good reason. Very powerful control mage with the Unite that is incredibly useful for late game team fighting or just team fighting in general, being able to effectively CC people into a massive burst of damage.
Yes, and I guess the worry for that, for the jungling invade stabilize does really reflect on that, since they really chose the early level spike Espion, one of the 3Vs that are in this game right now, to go jungling, because I guess they only need half of the jungle to become effectively a machine in the game.
Also, just realized for all of you on stream, I finally fixed my. I think people were hearing me only in one ear. Now they should be hearing me in both. So that must have been annoying for a few people, but it should be fixed now. Regardless, moving on. That's what happens
Right, so
when
I
have to
guess
set things up like this. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, right. So I guess that's for me. That's and just the key moments for me that I thought was quite interesting about this match, especially when we look at the background of these two universities coming into this game, because Hall was the only undefeated team in this entire tournament, not dropping a single game during the round robin, but they were also the team with the smallest roster coming into the semifinals, only playing 9 different characters.
Yeah, they had basically zero draft diversity, gonna be honest there. Greninja played every single game, Mamoswine played every single game. 6 games of Sableye, 1 extra Comfey, which we did see come out today. Only Clef Bliss coming out on support, and then a little bit more mixed in Lost Lot, but mostly Garchomp. So realistically, your deviance from what you'd expect is really, really low, but they did show they have a bit more flexibility, but they didn't really execute on that.
Yes, but we must give a special shout out to Blind Messiah, the Greninja player, for having the highest kill count out of all the players in the semifinals, with a total of 131 kills over the course of the round robin, and that is the highest kill count. Is higher than any of the gods, higher than the Cinderace from Oxford, which we might see later on, who did one of the highest damage. And the roster of 9 for Hall was quite a stark difference to KCL, which had 20 different characters over the course of the round robin.
I mean, you could just see it here in the stats. I mean, this is FLX, obviously, but look at this. This is KCL stat block, and then you can see a little hole over here as far as that's concerned. But having said that, most of KCL's diversity was very, once or twice a game, mostly once. And I would say a lot of it has come from Piplup Parfait if you actually look through the game. So most of the draft diversity is coming in one player, but nevertheless, pretty spread out mons. They definitely showed that today.
Yes, most definitely. And something else that's notable is that KCL came out of very, very competitive bracket with the likes of UCL and Cambridge as well being part of that bracket. So it was colloquially coined as the Division of Death, and for them to make it out relatively unscathed and having such a dominant success today is quite a testament to their game playing skills and their team fights especially. And notably, as much as I hate to say this as the UCL alumni, they were the only team to defeat UCL in this entire tournament, who are the heavy favorites coming into this.
Yeah, I was actually just about to move on to that, seeing as obviously the next matchup will be finals, and Oxford versus UCL being played later today. UCL, I would say, are probably the favourites to win that, and therefore if we look at KCL versus UCL round 2 after today's performance, I mean, it says a lot about that matchup.
Yes, that would be very interesting, because KCL has shown that they do have the same flexibility as UCL in playing characters, with UCL playing 25 characters and KCL at 20. That is only just a 5 character difference, and most of it probably UCL is the same thing, with 1 or 2 characters appearance just for the flex as well.
I mean, if you just look at this game already, I mean, the Blastoise, that's a new one. You can add that onto KCL, so there are things that necessarily maybe not have appeared in this on this list before. I don't think the Eldegoss is on this list either, and that got played today. So make that 22 just off of this series. So I definitely think that number is much larger than it might even seem. Definitely even on that front. I think what it's going to come down to is just going to be execution for the most part. And I think KCL making sure that they don't fall behind too far early. Because if we do take a look through at their actual VODs and the way they've been playing, most games where they've been ahead early, they have done very, very well. They know how to pilot off the lead, but when they're in positions where a little bit in a deficit, maybe sort of split across the map, not able to play the way they want, tends to be a little bit more shaky, and we did see that in UCL's wins and in the series versus Cambridge.
Yes, and I think it'll be quite interesting because KCL does know how to snowball a game, as we saw in game 2. The snowballing was quite intense, and I think in terms of like our discussions for hauling KCL, I think that's all the background information I might have on them for now. It's not as extensive as my knowledge of UCL, but it is there.
I think
so
there
I guess
is one other thing that is worth pointing out for everyone on KCL. This was talked about a long time ago because it was in week 1, but if I'm not mistaken, not week 1 actually. Where is it? Well, KCL hold the scoring. No, it is week 1. I'm just dumb. There it is. The score record for the tournament at 12:04 in one game, which is quite impressive.
they are setting this. They set the bar very high, set the stage from week 1.
Yeah.
And I guess we can, speaking of week 1, we can start doing our round robin discussion because we have a bit of a meta, very small insular meta happening in IOPS Unite here that is not very different from what you will see in the different regional metas as well. So interestingly, top 5 most appearance during our tournament during round robin. The first was God of War, Greninja, Clefable, Slowro, and Mamoswine in that order. And most teams you would see during this round robin format will comprise of at least 1 to 3 of these 5 characters.
Yeah, I mean, 27 games just on the bottom part, of course, going up to a considerable amount more, actually over double in the God of War at 57. I guess we might as well start off with God of War. Ranged control mage, able to do a lot of damage, but of course, just that zoning potential combined from the Unite and the Psyshock, I think is the key bit of kit that players are interested in.
Yeah, most definitely. And I think it's also, we have to note that God of War has benefited from numerous patches over the past half year to make it the monster that it currently is. Because if you told someone how in the July tourney that we had, the day tourney we had, that God of War would be the most picked Pokemon, I don't think anyone would believe you.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, having said that, it has been a little bit of a bubble, at least for God of War here. But no, it's certainly shown up as far as performance is concerned. I mean, you could look at the kills, of course, those numbers are going to be a bit inflated because of the games played, but irrespective of that, a very, very strong sort of range damage that they've been using pretty much everywhere.
Very versatile as well, because that Unite move can be used to wipe out an entire team if the team is caught grouping together, caught in a chokehold, or even used as a secure mechanics for the Regis and Rayquaza as well. But it's also, we have to note that God of War did receive a nerf at the very end of the round robin stages in the Pokemon Day patch. Not sure if Teamy realized we were having this tournament and that God of War was exceedingly popular, but the nerf did happen. There's now increased cooldowns on its most popular moves, and since we have yet to see a God of War in the semifinals, it remains to see if the increased cooldowns will affect its pick rate or its performance during the semifinal playoffs. And yeah, I think it's also interesting to note that Hall was the only university out of the semifinalists to not play God of War at all, because all 3 other unis are massive fans of it.
Oh yeah. I mean, UCL, of course, Zuzi Raichu holding the highest damage dealt. If I bring this across, I could probably find it in the team info. Actually, no, I probably won't. No, it should just be under God of War anyway, because I don't think anyone else has played God of War on UCL. There you go. I mean, look at that.
Crazy
number.
damage stats. Massive damage. Most kills as well in UCL goes to Zuzu Raichu's God of War.
Yeah, huge damage out there. I mean, if we just go across all the teams, if we look at here, God of War 51 kills on KCL, topping this record as well. Of course, most games played, but you got Clef and Slowbro, of course. Yes, they're not meant to be kill machines, but regardless of that, still topping that chart there. Even on Imperial, highest kills there. You go across the entire dock, and you're just gonna see the trend of God of War's getting a lot of kills.
You're just going to see it. God of Wars are just massively popular here. And then I guess to go on to the next ADC on the list, which is Greninja, which we also saw lots of frogs during this round robin stage as well. And I guess in particular it's because of like the surf reset, from upon securing a KO, you just getting to basically use your move in an infinite amount of times if you can get the last hit, which allows you a high amount of sustains and secure potentials of objectives and opponents.
I mean, it's a great team fight tool as well. If you pair that with someone that can dive in alongside the Greninja waiting wings, get one reset, get one KO, it can snowball a team fight pretty quickly. Those sorts of abilities tend to do that. The only risk that you do run with Greninja is that Greninja is incredibly squishy, even compared to other sort of ADCs or assassins in this case, Greninja being a mix of both. Basically means Greninja gets the short end of the stick when it comes to survivability.
Yeah, most definitely. And I guess with Greninja as well, a very strong lifesteal and healing from its moves as well. And it's very mobile. You most often will find it in the jungle area, but it has a high attack speed. It moves about very quickly and makes it very difficult to aim, which is why you have things like Expion's Unites, which just has a massive area of effect.
Yeah, if you can't CC the Greninja can actually keep itself alive somewhat well between the mobility and the lifesteal, as you say. But if you either CC them or land burst damage onto it, then that is lights out.
Yes, and it's also interesting to note that among our finalists, there was only Greninja was only played by Hall, which is Blind Messiah, who has, like we mentioned previously, the highest kill count of any player in the semifinals.
Yep, I mean, we can bring it back over to the team Pokemon stats, but right there, 131 and 1205 points scored. Massive, basically. I mean, it's one of the higher points scored records if you look at everyone else as well. Not actually the highest, because I do believe that went to Cambridge in the regular season on a Greninja as well, funnily enough, but actually probably is the highest out of everyone going into the playoffs.
Yeah, that's very good stats, very dominant performance as well. And I guess now that we have talked about the two most popular ADCs, let's go on to the supporters who keep them alive.
Yep, Clefable is next. Pretty obvious. Load of healing. That's the main thing. Gravity also is a pretty nice little move to shut down mobility. We already talked about Greninja, highly mobile ADC assassin. You can just basically stop the frog in its tracks.
Yeah, and stops lots of the speedster categories. Talon can't do anything against Clefable as a Talon main. That hurts me a lot. Dotrio can't drill pack into Clefable's squishier ADC teammates. Zara can't do its dashes. Clefable just shuts down a lot of Pokemon, and in the devs thought that was not enough, because guess what? Moonlight and Gravity got a buff during the tournament itself.
Yeah, not entirely sure about the exact numbers on the buff, but it's a range for the most part. Basically just made what Clefable already did better, just amped up the role of the support here. And also, I mean, one part of Clefable is it's a fairly easy to execute Pokemon in general, so you don't have to worry too much about, making sure that you're mechanically doing everything correctly or positioning in a way that, I mean, positioning is still extremely important, both of these are, but eases that execution a little bit, and the mental impact that you have when playing series with your team definitely helps.
Yes, most definitely. And I think Clefable is very, very popular from week 1, but then seeing its impact after the buffs, just seeing the amount of range increase for Moonlight And Gravity, I think, was quite a noticeable difference because its team members didn't have to stick quite as close to it anymore. And with things that have massive range, like Glaceon, Espeons, they just benefited a lot more from those Clefable's buff. And we can't talk about Clefable without talking about its Unite move, which is Metronome, which is a randomized move, would come out at any point.
Oh yeah, you
I
love
don't
RNG.
I don't think we saw any explosions, which is very fortunate because that takes off 50% of your health.
Yeah, no, Unite has a few interesting RNG related mechanics that are a bit questionable in my eyes. I think the way that crit is handled is another one. I think most notably for me, when you see like a Outraging Dragonite just crit you with an auto, it's not very fun. Or just random crits in general sometimes in lane where that's the only reason you die.
Well, I mean, it's not a Pokemon game. There's no RNG, so just having that in game is pretty on brand.
Yeah, absolutely. And given the nature of 10-minute games, plus the series and the amount of time, it's generally not overly impactful. Although sometimes it can be extremely impactful. But that's besides.
It will be if Clefable exploded, because not only do you take 50% of everyone around you, you take off your own health. So I guess just from general observation, the most common metronome moves that came out in this series was Fly, Block, and Hydro Pump, moves that were all very useful in securing or just zoning out opponents.
Yeah, I mean, nice to have, right? That's pretty much it. As for how often they were picked in terms of these, the matchups here, both Hull and KCL, very big fans of the Clef. I think KCL in particular, having played quite a few games on that one. Let me just bring it up here. 7 games from Dubious Disc, the captain, and we can bring it into Team Pokemon Stats and take a look here for you all on stream as well. Actually 8 games. I think I must have got my my own doc incorrect there, but though 8 in total for KCL.
Yeah, all but one of their matches during round robin.
Yeah, there it is. I mean, God of War played 9 here.
Keeping the God of War alive.
Yeah.
Right, so we can't. So now that we've talked about Clefable, we have to talk about the only crossover from competitive Unite that leaked into our little tourney, which is Slowbro.
I think it's pretty obvious if you've played the game why Slowbro is really good in a competitive 5v5 format. It is mostly that ultimate, but of course, telekinesis is also very useful. But no, Slow Beam, being able to bind a particular Pokemon to... I mean, if you played League, you'll know what it is. Nevergrasp, Malzahar, very fun ability, very interactive in Unite as well, because you just say no, haha, funny button, now you die.
Yeah, and it's particularly, you can see, we have seen some matches in the week where there's both a Slowbro and a Serena, because those team comps just serve to isolate the ADCs of the opponent's team and pivotal members of it, because, well, with Slowbro's Unite, you heal while isolating and dealing damage to target, and Slowbro is just massively tanky that Pokemon just cannot be KO'd.
Yeah, I mean, it's in part just because of the grey health that you have with the passive. Things from Oblivious is the ability. Basically, the amount of damage you take is stored as a grey health. Again, throwback to League, if you've played Tahm Kench, you'll have the general idea of how it works, except that Slowbro can heal it back directly by dealing damage with its moves. This is most notable with not Surf Amnesia, Scald Amnesia, you get the most healing, but of course if you want that big CC bot energy, Surf Telekinesis, or just use of Telekinesis in general, can set up picks for the rest of your team.
Yeah, most definitely. And also, since you mentioned Skull, the residual damage from Skull is a lot for a defender.
Yes.
And we can see in last year's USC series in the Worlds at London, it secured the Zapdos over in one of the matches. So it does a good amount of damage, and it does allow you to secure kills on low HP opponents while zoning out when you're trying to secure your objectives.
And this is all the time whilst actually inflicting the burn status, which means that all those physical attackers are going to be dealing that much less damage to you, thereby making Slowbro even bulkier than it already is, which can be amplified further for your items. I mean, all sorts of things you can use, even body barrier if you want to do it while slow beaming, other bits and bobs. I mean, you can stack on Slowbro if you really wanted to, although in a 5v5 environment, it's a little bit less desirable.
Yeah, most definitely. And I mean, Slowbro not ideal for solo queue play, but in teams fights, very, very strong. And interestingly enough, despite all of this, there's only one university in our semifinalists that is a big fan of Slowbro, which is KCL, and it appeared in 8 matches during the round robin stage. So it just not appearing in one game at all among all of them.
Yeah, you have it there. I mean, if we look at other teams, I mean, UCL's played 2 games. Of course, KCL are perhaps the most prolific Slowbro enjoyers, but definitely has shown itself up across the rest of the tournament, which is why it's in the number 4 position as far as overall usage is concerned.
Exactly. And I guess with that, we move on to just our final of the top 5, which I'm pretty sure you are a big fan of, Dan, which is Mammoth Swine.
I happen to be a big fan of both Slowbro and Mamo, although I do say that my Mamo win rate is a fair bit higher at like 70-something% right now. I don't remember exactly what it is. I mean,
Okay, that is very high.
So, no, it's a very fun mod. I think the main thing is that people can really underestimate Mamoswine's damage, but the big thing with it is the amount of micro CC you can use just from your freeze passive.
Yeah, most definitely. I think it was demonstrated by KCL and Hall in our last match, because those stuns and freezes, it just leaves too many people immobilized. You can see how it can shut down very mobile characters as well.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really run away from something that's basically the closest you could get to point and click in this game. Free autos, you get the freeze. It's why sometimes you see rapid fire scarf being used to be able to basically chain more of those together sometimes. It's a very strong lane combo. We saw Mamo A9 being used, that freeze lane, to be able to basically bully people out and get those CC kills and setups early on.
Yeah, and with Piloswine as well, Piloswine being one of the strongest mid-stage evolutions in Unite, it's definitely not Pupitar, which struggles a lot in that stage. Piloswine is virtually unkillable if it's just sitting on its tier zone. Very difficult to get it out, very difficult to KO it, so you have to sometimes go 3 versus 1, and that thing is still alive.
Yeah, it's because it's constantly CCing you up, being able to regen, move you around. There's a lot of moments where you're just not actually able to deal damage to it. And the other thing is, if you're trying to actually score on the goal zone, it's just not going to happen because of the way that Mamoswine's passive works when you're in the tier zone. You're actually, your goal scoring speed is actually going to be reduced once it starts hitting you a little bit.
Yep. Very, very good character, very mobile. It moves very quickly for a defender, I must say, but very good Pokemon overall. And I guess we just have a couple of shout-outs to other notable Pokemons that appeared in our tourney, with it also being supporters actually. Comfey was introduced during the tournament cycle, and after being put in the ban jail for 2 weeks, it proved its worth during the weeks where it was first debuted by Oxford as a jungler who did 2 complete jungle rotations.
Yeah, Comfey, again, I'm gonna say it again, yeah, it's fucking Yumi. You love to see it. You sit yourself on a Mon, you start healing it, and what's worse is there isn't a mana bar in this game, so you can constantly click on the button, and you have a wonderful Unite move, where you put down the brush, and then you start amping your healing even further. Makes some characters nigh unkillable, and of course, if you've played a little bit of solo queue recently, I'm sure you've experienced the absolute wonder to play into, which is Zash and Comfey. Of course, I think it's been toned down slightly now with the Zacian emergency nerfs, but even still.
Oh, I still feel as though, like, as soon as I'm laning against a Comfey, I know appear, and it's not going to be a fun time for me because the range you get from like magical leaf, it should be illegal to be doing that much damage from that far away, and the amount of like longevity that Comfey provides with his healing, you can see it with UCL playing a T-Tar Comfey comp in the UCL versus KCL match, and you can see Oxford Zorok as well surviving way longer than a Zorok should in their match against Formal.
Yeah, it's just the power of Comfey. You just get to basically extend the lifespans of certain mons to points where they just shouldn't be allowed to live. Yep, we talked about Oxford Zorok in that one, and that was, of course, very, very powerful. Oxford having had also a very, very good regular season standing, having only lost to Hull, and this game too is actually somewhat close if you watch it through. But no, was pretty quick 2-0 victories for the rest of the split. And yeah, Comfey definitely played a part in that. The other team, I think, is UCL that pretty enjoyed the Comfey, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh yes, they do like their Comfey a lot. The UCL is a big enjoyer of their Protect the President comps, it seems.
Yeah, there you go. 4 games of Comfey. But no,
a lot of assists.
A lot of
assists actually. Dan, you notice that 64 assists.
That is the highest number of assists in this table here. That does go to show. I mean, it was mostly stacked upon. I think it was used with Tyranitar a few times, and I think Urshifu as well, if I'm not mistaken, were 2 of the main proponents with the Comfey.
Yeah, most definitely. And also, I would just like to give one last shout out to the stable eye that was played by Hall. I'm sure we playing in solo queue have all had the great joy of being jungle invaded by a stable eye, and I think Hall really embodied how to play a jungle invading stable eye, terrorizing their opponents during the round robin stages in the jungle.
I mean, we just talked about Oxford and the fact that they only lost to Hull. If you take a look through the games, the Oxford jungle was incredibly disrupted by the Sableye. Was a very, very big reason for why Hull were able to exert an early lead. Basically, you just had Sableye running around, dealing with enemy jungle. You allow your Gren to be able to farm up to basically being a Frogadier and then being able to gank lane. And then you do this as sort of a free pack with your Sableye, as well as like a secondary jungler into lane. You get a kill, and then you kind of go from there. That was, I think, the key of a lot of Hull's gameplay from what I watched.
Yeah, most definitely. And I think we have a bit of time left before our next semi-final match, which is going to be Oxford versus UCL. So this is going to be quite an interesting match, don't you think?
Yeah, definitely big expectations coming out from both sides. As we briefly mentioned earlier, UCL the favourites to take this one, but Oxford, again, as we said, very, very good regular season win rates, so should be a pretty interesting series.
Yeah, most definitely. And as well, but Oxford actually, notably, I think, I'm not sure if you guys saw that match where that Cinderace went absolutely crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, highest damage, I think, in a single game. And it took out the enemy team, it took out the enemy's jungle. I think it got easily a 3 KO streak before it was finally neutralized.
Yes, Oxford, I think, have been perhaps the most favourable Cinderace players, let's say, or player, so to speak. Aikio, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, has been the main user of this, has always been in jungle, as it probably should be, really, but no, has been in the jungle every time, and has made a huge damage impact. Although, having said that, has a bit of a tendency to, I think Oxford in general, from what I've watched, can sometimes overpush a little bit, but this is both a good and a bad thing, because it sometimes results in some very big leads.
Yep, most definitely. I'm sure UCL is a big enjoyer of overextensions as well, so it'll be very interesting to see the two fans of overextensions play against each other in this match.
Yeah, I guess we can go through a few more little points about stylistic elements of both teams. We've talked about the Cinders for Oxford. The other big mon that they enjoy is the Gardevoir. No big surprise there. But outside of everything else has been really, really spread around. You've got a little bit Pikachu, a little bit Garchomp, a little bit of Sableye even on this team. I think the only other Sableye enjoyers coming into playoffs. But I think more notably there is Hooper 2 games recorded, and yeah, this actually came in really, really, really big in the series if you did watch it. I think it was versus Imperial, and the ability to basically be able to say, okay, I'm going to move my entire 5 stack to top side to do an objective, and then we're going to move all the way back down to group as a 5. And that team fight power was just immense.
Yes, that was very, very good. And I think one more thing that we can note about Oxford's team comps is that they're not massive fans of having defenders or supporters. They like to do heavy damage. They're in and out.
Yeah, and this is like partly a bit of an issue with their team. So if we go back to the Oxford Hull game, I mean, I'm using this a lot as an example, and it is only one replay due to the recordings, but of course it is the only loss we sort of have on video, so it's a good way to sort of analyse some of the weaknesses of the team. But they mispositioned a lot, and when you misposition with this sort of squishier / less defender reliance, you don't have the peel, you don't necessarily have the support as much. There was a Comfey played, and 1L1 Olagos, 1 Comfey, so it still exists, but wasn't played that much. You just get punished.
Yeah, very heavily as well. And I guess if we're talking about teams and their supporters, we can see that UCL, I think, might have played all the supporters in the roster.
Oh yeah, it's an awful lot, but UCL pretty much played everything under the sun. So
they did 25 characters being featured in UCL, with every week a new comp being debuted. This team knows how to play its characters, and they're not shy about it.
Yeah, the most versatile team in draft, straight up. And this is not even just from like purely a sheer mon-pool perspective, but also your jungling duties are completely spread out across different players. So what you can do is you can be shifting different players onto different roles each time. So at least in the playoff scenario, you can adapt very, very quickly within a given series.
Yep. And I think another thing notable about UCL is that they are big enjoyers of Mr. Mime. I think they might be one of the few unis that are big fans of the clown in this tournament.
Yeah, was mostly played by Isaac 2 Knife, if I'm not mistaken. 5 games on there. I mean, UCL basically had a six-person roster for the most part. 7 overall, because Cynthia came in for one series, but 6 for the most part. Mr. Mime, very, very interesting support in quotation marks. Is a support at the end of the day, but does a substantial amount of damage for a typical support.
Yeah, most definitely. Claps and you're out. And the barriers from Isaac to Knife really demonstrates the versatility Mr. Mime has as an ADC and a supporter.
Yeah, I mean, what could you say? That's just Mime. Fortunately, the damage has been decreased a bit since the big old glory days a while ago, but it's still very high.
Very, very high damage, yes. And yeah, but you remember UCL as well, along with Oxford, big enjoyers of overextending. I think one of the notable matches that I remembered was when the Machamp got KO'd right before the Ray spawn, and with a solid 35 seconds cooldown.
If we take the UCL versus KCL series, both losses to KCL were mostly the result of Ray flips. I'm going to be honest, KCL did play very well to be able to make some comebacks, at least before the final stretch in both the last 2 games, but for the most part, it really did come down to who actually secured that objective.
Yes, and Ray flipping, I think, is something historically has been a struggle. So that's a way, I guess, to defeat the Titans that is UCL.
Yeah, that is definitely something. Punishing overextensions and trying to team fight well around that 2-minute mark, but UCL have been pretty good at pushing leads in general, so if you are not in a deficit by that point, then I would be relatively surprised for the most part, because that hasn't happened super often as far as UCL are concerned. One thing they do like to do, just stylistically wise, I notice off a few replays, they sort of like to do this sort of 4-1 type thing, where you have, which is fairly common, but 4 on one side of the map, you have 1 in defense, you sort of move around as a 4 and then bring the other one to the weak side of the map, basically, which tends to result in pretty good roam potential and pretty good rotations for objectives.
Yep, definitely. And UCL, everyone can play the roles. Like, you have the ADC players who can play supports as well. You have the support players who can play jungle as well. It's a team that can really just adapt very well to different team comps. And I think we have a couple of minutes before the next match begins. I think what I'm seeing from the lobby, everyone is starting their games to make sure nothing crashes.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, there's just gotta make sure everything's ready in ship shape before the game starts. Give it a little bit of time. I mean, we could actually cut to a quick little break for a bit if we want to just get everything set up in the meantime. If you want.
Sure, that works, right? We will see you guys back in a couple of minutes.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Inter-University Pokemon Society Unite Tournament 20... I guess this is 2022, technically? Was it 2023? I'm not sure how to say it, but didn't we have, like, transition time? Anyway, I can't keep track of time. We have playoffs, we have Unite versus Oxford. Unite College London versus Oxford.
Yep, and I guess while we're waiting for the match to begin, we can talk a bit about the history of Unites.
Yeah. One other quick little note before everything starts off. Currently a few issues with the lobby, and in particular, Oxford may be in need of a sub. So that's just getting sorted out in the meantime. Once we have everything, we'll go into the lobby and so on and so forth.
Yep. Looks like it might be getting sorted soon, so we may be able to start the match in the next 5 minutes. That is quite a relief for everyone here.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, I guess we've had to provide all of you with a little bit more content than I guess initially anticipated, given the schedule, given everything else. But we are here nevertheless. I mean, I guess talking backstory, I think the main thing is we did a long trial. God, it must have been summer, right around August time, I think, organised by, of course, you, Isabel, primarily, and that was all in one day. So it was quite chaotic, to say the least.
Yep, it was. I remember distinctly. It was in July, very last few days of July. Yeah, 27th of July, I believe, and we were trying to trial out whether there was an interest in Unite amongst the UK university, and lots of the teams at that time were hybrid teams, with the exceptions of like UCL, who sent 2 teams, and KCL. Lots of the teams were mix of different universities, but it did show that people were interested in this game and were willing to play and stay up for 3 hours past the initial end time to play against each other.
Yeah, crazy of the time zones and everything. Goes to show dedication, right? Still funny, though, that we had the quote-unquote UCL second team actually coming on top in the end.
Yeah, I was in the quote-unquote original UCL team, but clearly there was a bit of a skill difference going on between the 2 UCL teams.
Yeah, well, you know, at least if anything is to be made of the first tournament, is that, well, UCL's player base is serving them very, very well here in terms of diversity, and well, I guess we'll see in the series to come.
Right, let me just check.
Yeah, still got a few little other admin bits and bobs to get through, I guess, in the meantime.
Yeah, and I guess, and for the future of the tournament as well, I mean, with we base a lot of what we do on what the competitive scene is doing. We don't follow it strictly per se, but they definitely serve as a very big source of inspiration. So that means we are definitely looking at using the draft pick format that has been recently introduced. We were not able to do it in this tournament because we had already finalized all our plans when it was introduced.
Yeah, I mean, there was also a few other things going on in the meantime, which, of course, just meant that it wasn't... I don't think it was fully implemented properly when the tournament started anyway. And also, I mean, just given that it wasn't, like, super in use, it just makes sense, pretty much. But I, for one, would be a pretty big proponent of draft pick for a few reasons. I think bans are a big one. Definitely means that for all of those teams that are somewhat one-trick focused or have a lot of comfort picks, they're going to need to diversify their mon pool a little bit more than they might have this season. But I think that would just make for far more interesting gameplay, and, well, depending on your opinion of God of War, or seeing as much God of War, maybe we would see less God of War with bans around. Or at least a God of War ban could be pretty good.
Yeah, and I think it'll be quite interesting to see how the teams that have played with much smaller rosters will adapt to this change, considering that you can't have 2 of the same Pokemon on the team. And if your Pokemon gets banned or picked up by the other team, what are you going to do if you're one trick?
Yeah, that is the question mostly. I mean, it's the takeaways as well. Draft order. Some mons are Also really good in situations where you sort of know the rest of the enemy team already. I mean, counter picks for the most part, of course. I mean, you can now pick stuff like, I know, assassins, like even Gengar, or I mean, Absol been seeing a few more times, but like just these two mons off the top of my head, if they're playing a really squishy comp without many tools to disrupt you, maybe like a Clef or something like that, Micro CC, Mamo, things like that, Sobro even, then you're just in a better position to pick them, and those mons will perform much better.
Yeah, and Mew as well. Mew seeing a lot of popularity in the official format as well. Mew is not a Pokemon you would necessarily see in the last year's season, at least. With firstly, I think it was not released.
Well, yeah, it wasn't released.
Secondly, too squishy.
Yeah.
Secondly, it's a bit too squishy for that kind of comp with like Hoopers. But Hooper making a comeback actually right now with the new buffs.
Yeah, I mean, my opinion on Hooper is the fundamental design of the Pokemon is a bit unhealthy, unless it gets reworked, and it's just a numbers game of whatever they decide to basically balance around, whatever numbers they decide to adjust up and down. So, yeah. But no, Hooper, pretty damn good right now, and I think the main thing with 5v5 is the mobility.
Yeah, it's probably one of the few counters to Zacian that's currently making solo queue experience not a very pleasant one in rank right now, because we thought we were getting a patch, emergency patch, but we just got the patch to not speed run the missions.
Yeah, this is true. I mean, I thought there was still some adjustments to Zacian, if I'm not mistaken, but the mon is still extremely strong at the moment. But yeah, there was a bug patched out for the adventure mode.
Yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about having like at the starting stage having a Zacian sitting along like 3 EVs. You know, it doesn't seem quite right to me.
It does look a bit funny, doesn't it? That's for sure. Especially like the nature of Zacian. And its sort of moniker as having been a pretty overwhelming force in VGC last year.
Yeah, it's pretty nice to see Zacian busted again in a different format, you know, different game and a different format.
Yeah, I mean, they just can't help but make the dog really good.
One of the dogs very good,
true.
you know. Zamazenta not exactly in a very good position.
Where my Zamazenta fans at? That's what I have to say.
Yeah, I mean, Zamazenta is a higher chance of appearing in a boss rush than appearing as a playable character in Unite.
Hold on a moment. No, it's changed. I believe I've updated it. Should already be transitioned. For those of you that have not noticed, I have updated the rosters that we have lined up for both times, and that sub has come through. What was previously the Oxford captain, if I'm not mistaken, with Lucario, is unable to play, and now we have Lost Galaxy there instead. I need to jump into admin. But yeah, we'll be able to actually have the games coming up, although it's now been closed.
Oh, there we go. Well, I mean, at least it's happening. Has started.
What started?
The crash. At least the crash happened.
Oh yeah,
before the
at
match.
least the crash. Yeah, true. Sorry, just cut out there a little bit for me, but that's fine. Anyway.
Right. I'll join the lobby and I'll add you to it.
Let's get it sorted. I guess we could do a quick little refresh. I mean, with like Oxford and UCL in terms of everything. We did, of course, go through them with the analysis earlier. But if you were not here, UCL, or Unite College London, as I like to call it, are, of course, the favourites, arguably, of the entire tournament and definitely of this matchup. Most versatile team out of everyone with the 25 mons played, but have a tendency to overextend or lose at ray flips. Similar thing goes with the overextension habit of Oxford, but equally strong, having only dropped a series to Hull. Very, very aggressive gameplay insofar as not really favouring supporters or defenders, very much wanting those high DPS carries, and have been executing fairly well on that end.
Right. Yeah, but it's going to be exciting because if with these two universities, they tend to play very aggressive in team fights, and when they get the leads or just a slight advantage, they release the ball, the the little edge they get over the other teams. So I'm very interested to see how will these two teams match up, and I'm particularly interested to see how Oxford would overcome to the ever-changing roster that UCL brings every week to the tournament.
Yeah, Oxford having had somewhat decent draft diversity. I mean, we can go to the doc very quickly. Should still have this up. 15 Pokemon stats. Yep, with 18, of course, not quite as much as UCL. But still pretty diverse in draft, so would be expecting things that aren't necessarily off the standards that we've been seeing. But irrespective of that, probably still going to be the main things. Going to have the God of War. Probably expect to see a Cinderace from Oxford.
Yeah, probably, if I'll be very surprised if there's no God of Wars at all in from UCL, considering they are massive God of War enjoyers.
Yeah, I mean, God of War's for both teams, to be honest. John Cena, on the side of Oxford, has been a pretty big enjoyer of the God of War as well. Although, if you look at the sort of Unite API match history, has pretty much played everything under the sun, so an extremely deep Mon pool as far as that's concerned. So Oxford, despite having less shown in the tournament, definitely have more outside of that.
Yeah, most definitely. I think I'm interested as Cinderella from Oxford. They play very aggressively, but they do get massive strides as well with the aggression that they play in. But I'm wondering if they'll be able to run Rampage per se against UCL, or if UCL is going to shut that down very quickly.
Yeah, UCL been pretty good in the early game. Maybe quite restrained before jungle pressure happens, but of course jungle pressure is the sort of the main driving force of your early game. Once you get out on your first clear, and then you can start influencing lanes. Of course, multiple people able to play various mons in the jungle from UCL. We talked about this earlier, the diversity in being able to put any one of your players in that role.
Exactly, and basically I think UCL easily plays all of the Pokemons that are good for jungling, at least per se. So you never really know what's coming out from them.
Yeah, although having said that, with the God of War, I'm just looking at the rosters so far. I do notice the absence of
No Zuzu Raichu.
Yeah, so I actually will take back my word about God of War. Still, of course, possible, but I think very, very unlikely actually coming out of UCL just based on the lineup I see.
Oh yeah, that is true actually. Good on catching that. I think maybe there will be a God of War from one side only this time. I mean, obviously maybe John Cena might want to surprise us by playing a different character, maybe going for a support or defender in this game. But that decreases our likelihood of seeing a God of War by half.
Yeah, pretty much that. Nobody else on UCL has actually shown it in the regular season, not to say that they cannot play it. But with Isaac Tonife on the roster, more likelihood of Mime, also pretty big Lucario player, if I'm not mistaken, so that's another one, although Lucario not necessarily been seen as much in the tournament as other mons.
Yeah, Lucario really falling off actually. Once very dominant in the old map, but now Serena being chosen in favor, and Isaac's pretty prolific Serena player as well.
Yeah, has showcased all three of those, Mime, Serena, and Lucario, in the tournament overall. As for other things, I think everything else is pretty diverse. HCX has shown a lot of T-Tar in this tournament specifically. T-Tar Comfey being something that UCL like to pull out, so that might be something to watch out for in draft.
And it seems like our final member of Oxford has joined the lobby, so just waiting for the teams to confirm that they are ready to start, and we can finally get this match rolling.
Yeah, I also do not know exactly the Mon pool of Lost Galaxy, as they have not played before, but the player you're replacing, Lucario, was a player that is fairly good at the Hooper in particular, and that got shown two games, of course, alongside Clef and Lucario itself, funnily enough. But no, mostly the Hooper and the Clef, I think, are the two big ones to go, so hopefully they can patch up. Well, hopefully Lost Galaxy has access to those sorts of mons that they might be able to play around as a team.
Right, and I think everyone is ready, so I think we are good to go. There we go. Here are the picks.
There you have it. Into draft, I shall play the wonderful sounds of Mon Select.
One side.
Yeah, I don't know what else to call it. I guess draft. But yeah, there you go.
Interesting team comp coming up from both sides. I think both teams are just teasing the audience at the current moment. Ooh, we might be seeing a Dragapult. I am a big Dragapult enjoyer in Unite and in the main series, although my win rate is not the most ideal.
HCX having brought out Dragapult one game before in the entire tournament, if I'm not mistaken. Played it fairly well. Apple is a very prolific Trevenant player, and I mean, as for the rest of the mons, pretty big comfort on UCL as far as knowledge, I guess, is concerned. So expecting pretty good execution on that side. As for Oxford, again, pretty normal, except, I mean, Slowbro is a first from Thick Click, Comfey coming in on Lost Galaxy, God of What, as we talked about, very normal, and the Urshifu also a first, so some new faces popping up on Oxford.
Indeed, we have two Espeons actually coming out from both sides.
I think you can make a similar argument for Espeon as you can for Gardevoir with the potency of that Unite button. Huge CC, huge area damage, sort of similar in that sense, so I guess almost finding a replacement for that wonderful AoE teamfight tool.
Indeed, and we have our jungling Drippy and Cupfu. And I guess, it's going to be the battle of slow jungle clearance, especially from the side of Oxford with their little Cupfu.
Yeah, slow clear and a pretty aggressive stacking start coming out from Altonaut here. In the bot side, I'm going to get caught out, popping in X speed to get out of that little situation there. While it's continuing to level up.
It might have stolen the bunny as well. It might have stolen the bunny on the Bunnelby on the side of Oxford as well.
Yeah, interesting. Actually, what I'll do. Just wondering, Isabel, would it actually help if I streamed my perspective as well? I mean, I know you're in spectator, but.
I think it's good. As good as it is.
We'll leave it as it is. Anyway, Urshifu going straight onto HCX. Gonna jump straight out of there, but this is the Urshifu Comfey Wombo combo. Very annoying. It will be the Dark Bear rather than the Water one, which has the greater early game power. No, I'm completely wrong. I don't know why I didn't think that is Water Bear.
Oh, but didn't secure an early advantage against UCL. UCL very wisely pulling back before the bear. Or I might have spoken too soon, actually. Right. Nearly getting the kill on Altena.
I don't know if you're ahead of me or not, but no. Urshifu still looking for the kill. I mean, this is just the power of Urshifu Comfey being able to just pressure this very early. Comfey heal going to come in very soon. Slow smoke to follow. Still looking for the kill onto Mime, but as a 2v2, it's going to get difficult. Has to eject button through the barrier. She'll escape.
Yeah, unfortunately unable to get the early game advantage.
Very nice CC coming in from UCL with the collapse. Almost gets the Dragapult. Doesn't manage to. Comfey now. The healing again, just absolutely unstoppable now. Going for the War Turtle once more. Focus Band coming into play. I mean, we're just, looking at this bot side matchup. The Urshifu constantly punching.
Yeah, we can see how disruptive the Mime is. Urshifu is the water style at least. The Rapid Strike excels in comboing and it gets stronger with the more hits it gets. But as you can see, Mime just stunting it out of his combos to avoid getting the kills on the water top and their jungler.
Pretty stale top side as far as fighting is concerned. UCL currently in a minor points lead, absolutely nothing as far as the whole game is concerned. Well, sometimes you can have a difference of 26, but we'll wait to see. Registeel getting started up. Urshifu straight onto the Blastoise. No Unites available yet, not that point in the game. Got a jet button to the backside. UCL has some forces, but still not enough damage to get the Comfey. And actually, Oxford will somehow get that with the Espeon. Not entirely sure how that was secured. Wartortle almost going down, but nobody actually dying in that entire conflict.
Very, very tame fight in terms of how UCL and Oxford like to play. No deaths on either side. Might have been a flip for the Reggie. But as we can see, the team UCL are trying to push an advantage in the bottom lane.
Okay, top side. 3 versus 1. The trade is very tanky. Citrus Berry's healing up, but this Shifu's doing so much damage. Woodhammer, you're on 1 HP, gets knocked out by the Scold. Unfortunate use of the Espeon Unite, but that is the first goal zone already cleared out for Oxford.
Yes, unusual for UCL to be losing its goal zone that early, but I guess Oxford is playing their early game to their advantage.
I mean, absolutely, when you have that Urshifu Comfey, have a lot of priority, a lot of agency in this early game. Regieleki pushing in. You can basically jostle around a little bit and see if you can push it in or not, but there is no expectation for Regieleki to actually hit the goal zone. In the meantime, get some farm, why don't you? Or dunk in the bot side, that also works.
Yeah, I guess they're just getting the final bits of their stacks. The Slowbro will go down to the Dragapult.
This allows UCL to have a little bit of a counter push if they do desire, as the Urshifu is on the bot side.
Just missing the kill. The Dragapult just missing the kill on the Espeon just by the slightest of margins.
Yeah, not quite enough there. Of course, still a lead, so to speak, for Oxford so far, but it is expected with this early game. It's just how well you manage to transition to the later parts of the game, this conversation.
Exactly, especially with the Rapid Strike Urshifu falling off slightly to the late game, and with UCL's team form, it seems to be more like a late game push, especially with the Blastoise and Dragapult.
Every single Unite that you could possibly think of getting used there ends up in Urshifu finally getting knocked out. Trevenant will go down as penance, so it'll be a 1-for-1 trade. Blastoise still lingering around, trying to get the Gardevoir picked up. There is a Registeel being done in the meantime. Espeon with a Comfey sat on its back. Registeel leashing, healing back up. Here comes the Mime Unite, looking for Dino to get the pick. UCL managed to do so and get the Comfey in return. Should just give them priority for the Registeel, and it is secured as such.
Yep, not very comfortable towards the end, but you saw all the Unites being popping off, and Mime actually wisely saving its Unite for the end after all of the Unites are gone.
You can see already how the Urshifu is already beginning to drop off a little bit as far as its power is concerned. Only level 11 right here, but it's just the general power level of the way that Water Bear functions. We'll get a Dunkin in the spot side if they do so decide. Yep, not going to math that incorrectly. I think Matip is the way that Comfey works, but there you go. By the top side, there is no Urshifu or Comfey yet, which means you still have the advantage, and they will press it, taking down the Espeon immediately. Slowbro will live. That very tenacious little thing. Eleki gonna get completed.
Eleki's starting to regenerate. Will they be able to get it? Yeah, they do.
They will still secure that. Alright, Espeon Unite getting used as a disengage tool. UCL though, despite getting this objective, still not evening out the score gap just yet.
Yeah, but UCL wisely using this time bought by the Eleki to farm up their side of the map because all of their jungle is up.
Yep, get those levels in time for the final 2 minutes of the game. You will basically need a Ray for some reason. Well, it depends on how you want to play. You can jostle in the fight and maybe try and get a back cap. Something that is great for UCL is you have this tier 1 goal zone in the top side and the bot side, both available for very, very easy captures. So Oxford having to defend both or wipe UCL if they don't want to fear getting a lot of points scored to the enemy side.
Exactly, and it seems like UCL has a slight level advantage with the jungler on UCL side. The Dragapult reaching level 13, so getting all of its plus attacks. And we can see everyone's organizing themselves, but neither team really wants to engage at the moment.
Espion saying on the bot side, UCL can maybe attempt. I mean, God of War's going here, trying to think maybe there's a capture going on. They're gonna engage in the mid. This means that God of War Espion can come back. Trev going into the back line, looking to CC up, will be tanky. There's the Unite coming out from the Espion and the Blastoise on UCL side. Gonna lay down the Death Ball, going straight into Oxford. Just the Comfey and the Bear alive. God of War trying to lay down some side shocks. The Scout still alive though. Comfey's tenacity being provided with the healing. Very, very powerful. UCL yet to score though. Still 1 minute 20 left on the clock.
Yep, no major advantage taken by both teams, although teams are going to be... And do they get it? The Espion gets it with 80. And it lives as well.
Alright, well that's very impressive. Exactly what they need. The only thing is, there's still not enough to overcome the deficit you had in the early game.
It's a close battle, but I don't think either team knows who's ahead. I mean, Oxford, with the knowledge, they broke both tier zones.
Good, but it's an 80 score in the last stand. Tremlin's gonna go down. That's already a one-man advantage. You don't have any Unites. Dragapult Unite, the only one available for UCL. Western's going in, resistance to hindrances.
Oh, no,
looking for the score on the
didn't-
top side. I think UCL realised they're the ones slightly far behind. You don't need much of a score at all, but you need to get it somewhere to try and get the game. But the problem is now with Oxford taking down some targets, they can get the 76 in on the top side.
Yeah, it looks like the Urshifu. Urshifu might get it.
Okay, Comfey manages to. Urshifu doesn't, but UCL need to score a 100 somehow. Rayquaza not going to go down just yet. 10 seconds left on the clock. It's all down to this mime. It's the only slot that can score, but the Slowbro defending the position means that there is no way home for UCL to get this score in, and in 3 seconds time, Oxford will close out the first game.
Oh, that's a very surprising turn of events. Very uneventful for the most part, especially with Ray not going down and not major team fights going on. But somehow Oxford managed to close it off against the Titans that is UCL.
Such a close end there. You have to think that maybe if UCL decided to go for some of the caps and doing Rays, maybe split the focus on Oxford, you had some chances. Scatter and divide, as they say, damage numbers. Actually, Blastoise doing a humongous amount there from UCL, but not enough. You can also see the damage, of course, from the little bear over here, combined with the Comfey. Very, very, I guess, I don't know. Pretty good win from
Most
Oxford.
damage coming out from Blastoise, actually, significantly more than anyone.
Yeah, the only one that was ever close was the Urshifu. Was not quite enough to overcome that. UCL may be having to look to adapt this game.
Okay, let me just add you to the stream real quick. Oh, you're right in here.
I'm in the lobby. I'm apparently the lobby leader. I don't have the.
You're the captain.
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm
let
the
me add
captain
James. Okay, there we go. This is going to be an interesting turn of events because Oxford taking a game off UCL, being one of only 3 universities to take games off UCL during this tournament run.
Yeah, very impressive off of that, of course. Not much else to say, but we'll just have to wait to see how drafts come through. And the early game, I think the main thing is, how do you plan on dealing with a Comfey Urshifu again? Did definitely fall off a lot, but maybe you decide that we need better team fighting late game, because that's just what you didn't have. You didn't have enough of engage, your Trev went in, then died, and then you couldn't have the follow-up, so that's a disadvantage there. I mean, that's one of the problems with UCL's having such great individual agency as far as player levels are concerned. Sometimes that happens.
But would you say that the ending was very similar to the final game against KCL during the run-in matches, where the game was lost due to a lack of points scored throughout?
Yeah, it's very characteristic of. I guess, the way that UCL have lost in the tournament so far. I think that's the best way to put it. Don't necessarily have a big enough early lead. It's somewhat even. Or you do have an early lead, but it's just not enough, and then you lose at a ray flip. All comes down to those last 2 minutes of the game. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, maybe you might go with a
You
more
also have to tell me
aggressive.
when to start the lobby, because I don't know.
Or do you want to transfer it to James so that
There we go.
you're the captain now?
Yeah, I've revoked my captain privileges.
Alright, we just wait for the both sides to say that they are ready. Okay, has Right, I'm interested to see the team comp changes. If Oxford's just going to stick with what they have done, since obviously it worked for them in the early game, and if you pull up one of their very different rosters for this game too, because they are one game away from being knocked out from playoffs.
Yep, do or die for UCL right now. The favourites maybe not able to close it out. Would be I guess, I mean, both teams are very capable, but I still think, as far as narratives are concerned, it would still be an upset. But this is not to say that Oxford are not a capable team in and of themselves. They've shown that in the regular season, and they're definitely showing that right now.
Exactly, it would be a very big upset for UCL to go home as well. But Oxford has proven their worth with losing only one game to during the series and securing a very convincing victory against UCL in the first match.
Yeah, definitely that to say the least. Yeah, I mean, not much else to say analysis-wise. So what happens? I guess the other thing is, to set up for what comes next, is that whoever wins this will end up facing KCL in the grand finals, who have definitely surprised us versus Hull today with a pretty decisive 2 games. A tough opponent to face in the finals.
Yeah, especially since that KCL was runner-ups of their division playing against Hull that top their division. So the runner-ups beating out the top seeded team of the division, and we're not sure if we're going to see a repeat of that narrative in this game right here.
Yeah, second seed versus first seed, so that's what this is all about. I'm not entirely sure what we're waiting on, but, you know.
Oxford is saying that they need 1 more minute, and UCL is ready to go. We're just waiting for Oxford to give us the go.
All good.
Oh, we're having quite a sizable audience as well. We have 31 viewers right now as well. Then. Sure, no worries. Oh my goodness, I'm actually really scared. I mean, then Oxford have stated that they're ready. Right. Oxford has said that they are ready to go, so I guess we're starting soon.
Okay, apologies for that. I have now returned.
All right, and you return just in time because they're right now.
Right, yeah, I see. Seeming to be a pretty similar comp from UCL actually. Which is
UCL
unusual.
not changing anything.
Sometimes we call that the salty run back. But it looks like it will be the salty run back coming out from UCL. A MOBA
UCL
classic.
determined to make this comp win.
I mean, it's just gonna be the same from both sides. Once Oxford see that UCL aren't willing to change anything, it's all gonna come down to execution. That's a massive, massive thing to put your potentially final game on, actually.
Exactly. I think UCL might be very confident in this team comp against Oxford right now because both sides remaining unchanged for potentially the final match of the night.
Alright, the stakes are here. The stakes are high even, and they are here as well. Okay.
Right, let's see. Same jungling Pokemon coming sides. It seems to be a complete repeat of game 1.
No reason to change anything really. Just gotta come down to how well you resist the bear. Last time we saw pretty
Exactly.
good resistance here in the bot side. Maybe we need to see more roams coming out from UCL to deal with that. Or maybe they just think it's a matter of we can play out the early game the same, we just need to fight better in the last 2 minutes.
Yes, because I would say the early game didn't go that badly for UCL. I guess it was just the last 2 minutes where, the scoring started to matter a bit more.
Really nice stacking there. Also stealing away the little creep from the Squirtle here in the bot side. She'll give UCL a slight XP advantage here versus the Comfey Godfall. Rolt's actually having not evolved yet. We'll get it off of that Boltoy there. Urshifu now complete. And roaming down to the bot
Making
side.
its way down. Oh, it looks like UCL is getting all of the bottom farm. Here comes the bear.
Bear has arrived, but there's not actually that much the bear can do just yet. I'm just going to be able to put a stop to most of this. Comfey only
the
level
bear.
3.
Yeah, that's not a position you want to be in, especially since the Confei now has jumped ship.
Top lane is in a very similar state to last game. Much of a stalemate. Urshifu now attempting to dive the bot side. Slow smoke goes
Mime
down.
very nicely saving the war turtle, allowing it to get back and get the citrus berry. Oh, but fight breaking out.
Actually, I believe there was a J point used, if I'm not mistaken, from the Urshifu, actually. I didn't actually catch who used it here in the bot fight, but somebody is down the held item. Just pretty standard farming, although something did happen in topside whilst I was looking at the bottom bit, and Oxford get a little score in.
I think Isaac to knife as the Mime is being a lot more aggressive with this healing of farm from the side of Oxford. I think he might have taken.
Yeah, maybe a slight overextension from the Slover as the rest of the team of UCL come in. Trevenant getting another stack. If I'm not mistaken, this is a stacking Trevenant. I know.
Yes, I think UCL is very fond of their stacking Pokemons.
Yeah, we saw this on the boss side as well with the Wartortle. Of course, stacking giving you that little bit of scaling potential as well, just raw stat numbers. Urshifu definitely doing a lot less than last game, so...
Yeah, it seems like Urshifu playing a bit more hesitant in this match. Potentially with the mime just stunting it out of its
Although having
creation.
said that, I think Mime might also be in trouble. Just about makes it to his goal zone, gets the citrus berry.
There's
She'll
berries.
stay alive as a result. Dragapult now evolved to that point. The rest of Oxford now here in the bot side, maybe looking for a push alongside the Reggie objective.
Yeah, there's four of Oxford in the board side and 3 of UCL up top. I guess they're going for a more aggressive push into the goal zone this time round.
I mean, this Aleki's gonna go in. You're gonna get the entire goal zone done. UCL now up to 109, much higher than last game. Oxford, though, will be able to get kill onto the Mime. Reggie Rock secured. Only a War Turtle left, I think. The little turtle has to evacuate the area. Every single dunk is going to go down, and the response will be equal for the bot side, although UCL a kill up War Turtle, then maybe mispositioning a little bit and getting caught out.
Another dunk, and there's still advantage in terms of points from Oxford's side.
Yeah, just there with the 8 score, that brings it up to 1 point higher. If this stays like this, it's going to be a pretty close last 2 minutes, but definitely more for UCL to play with at this point in the game. Last game, I would say they were a little bit further behind, but this does mean that they don't have this early tier 1 goal zone here. They only have the one on the bot side available, so maybe continuing to prioritize the Aleki and pushing into this top side might be the better play, so you have this sort of area of agency for the late game.
Exactly, there's a fight breaking out in the bottom lane with Shifu, Confei, and the God of War.
Forest Curse,
Trevor
focus
is
back,
staying
healing up
alive.
Trev. There's the lifesteal coming through, and the Unites. Shifu getting very low, having to jump out on 1 HP. The Blastoise is scoring, so can't get the kill just yet. Manages to get it just in time before the Comfey is able to heal, although Comfey does escape.
And it's on Espeon now. Seems like for Oxford, the Confei prefers to either be riding on the back of the Espeon or the Urshifu. Seems to be its 2 main preferred drivers per se.
I mean, it makes sense. It's the 2 big carry targets. Will be the Scold Amnesia from Slowbro. No extra CC apart from the Slow Beam, but Slow Beam of course being very powerful. Aleki getting started up.
Yeah, UCL just burning it down, Blastoise and Trevenant zoning out, and a very comfortable secure for UCL.
Gets burnt down
I
very
wonder if UCL's going to push it.
I don't think there's necessarily a need to do so. They're going to take the fight instead, but getting Urshifu and Comfey immediately means there might be an angle to push it. God of War Unite not available, just the Espeon and Slowbro, but the Espeon Unite comes in from UCL as well, and there's the follow-up to come with it, and you can push down the whole goal zone.
A very much more aggressive play by UCL, but they're very much rewarded by it. Getting kills and making the entire team making it out alive. This is a much better showing compared to the first game and UCL having broken all of the tier zones in the top lane.
Back with a vengeance this game, you're putting yourself above 100 score ahead, so Oxford going to need more than 150 in the last 2 minutes to be able to actually win the game. Bot side objective now, spawning Espeon not available, still doing some jungle clear, so at the moment it should just be about a 3v2 of the Comfey level, turning into a 3v3 shortly. God of War Unite getting popped around. Urshifu getting very, very low, but likewise with Trevenant healing up with that below 50% health bar, and Oxford getting the first kill. Should give them a slight advantage, although UCL do have the priority and a lot of damage, so Regi's going to get burnt. Blastoise getting traded. Can Oxford get the secure? I don't know who got it just yet. I think Oxford
Urshifu. UCL. Oh, Dragapult.
Oh, Dragapult got it.
Dragapult with the very spammable Unite move, which is actually, it functions as like a third move available to Dragapult. Very good for last hitting and secures.
Alright, Trevenant maybe getting caught out once more. Urshifu Comfey. He's back off. Aleki's still in 15 seconds, remember. Unite. College London have a slight advantage as far as the points are concerned so far. Still going to come down to what happens at the center zone.
Yeah, because potentially it depends how this Aleki fight could go, because the teams just need to make sure that the other team does not get it. But it looks like it's going to be a very comfortable secure from UCL of all the Alekis in this match actually. as they make their way down to the Ray Pit as Oxford is preoccupied.
This
with
is
swapping.
really, really good Aleki timing though. All you need to do is leave this Trev zone, you burn down this Ray, you deny them from even having it immediately because they have to deal with this objective.
Oh, and a very, very comfortable secure of Ray for UCL. UCL playing with aggression and vengeance from game 1.
Yeah, the salty run back truly, truly coming alive. The salt
And
fueling.
Aleki went in. Aleki went in.
Oh, you get these 50s instantly. This is going to be a huge, huge set of scores coming out from UCL. Oxford going to fight back a little bit in the top side, but it's going to be hard to surmount
Gonna be
that.
hard.
I mean, in 1 minute 20, you actually probably need more farm than you currently have to be able to do it, so it's going to take a miracle for Oxford to come back here, but let's see what happens. You know, he gets popped by Espion, looking to turn a team fight. Traded back with the Trevenant, there's the follow-up. Woodhammer after another, alongside the Mime and the rest of the support. Urshifu Comfey surviving as best as they can, but unfortunately, it is not sufficient to overcome the lead that UCL have built up.
And the Confe just being taken out, absolutely stunted, couldn't move. Oh, it looks like, yeah, it looks like it's pretty comfortable victory for UCL in this. Slowbro trying to hold the Espion, but almost a full team wipe happening. And UCL being a bit, I think, a bit cheeky in the moment, knowing that they have the victory. Off to do an additional score.
I mean, the Pulse still has a shield now, Longo has it, but you have 20 seconds. Oxford can't really retaliate with enough. Okay, yeah, you get a few other points in. Dragapult's actually going to get it in. Bring that up to 8:27. Maybe you get one more in the last 12 seconds or so, but UCL going to even out the series to 1-1.
1-1. This is going to be very exciting. It's going to be our only three matches of the semi-finals.
Alright, there we have it. Apologies again, stream.
Well, look at the scores.
I'm not 100%, but good enough to be able to at least do this. There you have it. Blastoise again topping the damage charts. Next up will be the Urshifu. Gardevoir also doing a great amount, but you know, UCL may be able to close this out without even picking a Gardevoir.
Might be the first, might be one of the few weeks actually where they don't have any Gardevoirs.
And now we wait once more.
Yep, UCL Oxford taking the final game very seriously. They asked for a minute as they're all restarting the game to make sure it doesn't crash.
Yeah, that would be good. Stability is not always something that Pokemon games have been known for.
Oh yeah, especially, you know, RNG is it's Pokemon does enjoy having that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, now draft is going to change once more. The onus is once more on, well, actually Oxford even, because it was on UCL to make the adaptation, but they decided, no, we like our composition, we're just going to do it again, and we think we're better, so we're gonna play better the second game. They managed to do so.
I guess the salt comp, you know.
Yeah, the salt comp.
Salt run was a successful run, so it's going to be very interesting to see if there's any adaptation, if Oxford is going to change their comp, or if UCL is just going to continue playing this entire time.
Yeah, I think I would probably expect changes, but one thing in a best of series is comfort. And without any bans on the table, something UCL can just do is say, you know what, we've been playing these champions, or Pokemon, for the last 2 games, we're warmed up. we can probably execute again, maybe mechanically try and outplay you on a macro level as well. You saw that game, prioritizing your leckies, trying to contest Oxford a little bit more in the early, and with the same comp, they just weren't able to quite do the same thing that they managed to first game with Oxford.
I accidentally declined an invitation, so that's a bit of a
Can you
a
not
bit of a
go
5
in now?
p.m. chop on my end.
Yeah, I should send you one myself as well.
Thank you. I'm just waiting for the players to filter in. Seems like everyone from UCL side is right in the to come in.
Just making sure everyone's in lobby. Last game of the
Right, let me
series, it's a difficult one mentally, so got to keep up on that front.
Yep, lots of pressures from both sides, both teams. Life in the and for the grand finals is dependent on this one match. Right, just making sure everything is okay from both ends.
Okay. Right. Oh, I'm the lobby leader again. I'm just gonna change that.
You're the captain.
Yeah.
Yeah, seems like Oxford's having a bit of maybe. Right, okay. There we go. Okay then. Sure, no worries. You deserve a nice long break after this, man. Surprisingly enough, both captains from both sides are not playing today. Right, then we might be starting in a bit. I see typing. Right, okay, they are ready. So it's just up to James to start.
Shouldn't be too long, hopefully.
Shouldn't be too long. They should be ready. Right. Oh, and here we go. The final match.
Alright, let me turn on the wonderful sounds of Unite again for all of you at home. We are back in draft for the final time today. I like the Zash and Hover.
Yeah, I mean the two of them teasing us, you know, teasing us with. Right, looks like UCL is going with the exact same team con they have done in all 3 games. And oh, might be the first. Are we going to see our first duo trio? Oh no, that was a tease. Different team form. We're going to see this Cinderace, Oxford different team form from Oxford. Yeah, Cinderace is coming out.
Alright, UCL really did decide that they felt like, you know what, we're just going to stick with comfort in a 3-game series. Going to play the same thing again. Though, yeah.
And I guess
Go on.
lots of firepower coming from the side of Oxford, sort of with a completely different team com.
Pretty high damage, does have the support this time, unlike some of their, I guess, regular season plays, but for the most part, very, very stylistically similar to what Oxford had been playing, although I think the main thing is both sides, no Gardevoir.
No Gardevoir. I think we have very effectively final semis with no Gardevoir.
Yeah, pretty much. Apparently in the games you need it most, games you need to win most even, the Gardevoir is just not what the players want to opt for.
Yeah, I guess not. I guess the nerfs maybe made a difference. Maybe they
Oh,
seeing a nice stack from up top.
Squirtle's such a menace right here, stole the farm once more, keeps doing this. Will be a little bit low this time, but they can back off fairly handedly and get away with a daylight robbery, to be frank.
Yep, and X speeding out, and I guess we're going to have an Azumarill in Oxford right now. And oh, there's going to be a big fight.
Focus Bang is proc topside, Storm down, and Azumarill's just blocked by the screen from the mime. With the help of a Draclook, very easy pick.
It looks like most of the birds in the lower, in the bottom lane at least, went to the side of UCL. Up top with the Slowpoke is still a Slowpoke. So both are still level 3 up top, which is not ideal in this situation.
Yeah, the thing about pairing these two together, I mean, I imagine you have an XP share on the Slowpoke if you're playing it like this, but Rowlet or Decidueye really likes having a lot of XP, especially early on. The Rowlet is very weak. Into this Trevenant, they're not going to have a very good time laning. In fact, the Espeon damage.
One takes it down. It doesn't seem like the Slowpoke has a EXP share, considering there's no light box.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Clefable has it.
Ah, yes, you're correct. Didn't notice that one off the top of my head, but I do think it's a bit weird that you're sort of doing this with the XP here in the top side at least.
There's a little bit of a fight happening in the flux zone.
Alright, UCL rotates back down.
The Mime coming back in time to save the War Turtle. They're always critting Azumarill.
Yeah, Azumarill's very interesting. It's sort of like, I don't know how to put it, but like with the build sometimes reminds me of Aatrox from the hit game League of Legends with the lifesteal and the very targeted abilities. We'll have a look. Comes through, lays down a few little cues.
Yeah, very interesting thing Azumarill is that in order for it to crit, it needs to isolate an individual member of the opposing team or the wild farm. So, not the most ideal for team fighting, actually.
Yeah, it's hard to pull off, but the amount of sustain / I guess, I don't know, bruisery damage Azumarill can put out is fairly high. We get a group in the bot side looking around the Reggie Rock objective. Espeon gonna target through Cinderace. Cinderace having to eject button out. Gives UCL a little bit of control.
Yeah, it seems like UCL seems to be prioritizing.
And the skill goes to Mime. Just about getting that one.
Just everyone regrouping. The two defenders up top, Trevenant and Slowbro. But Trevenant with a level advantage, Slowbro just hitting the level 6 and Trevenant at level 9, meaning night move.
Slowbro gonna get a score in. I should be tanky enough. Although this Espeon's doing a lot of damage. There's
That's
Amnesia.
a lot of damage actually from the Espeon.
Trevenant Unite. Cinderace very, very squishy. Gets caught in the Espeon Unite. Very nice pickup, level 7 to level 9. UCL a massive XP advantage and will death ball their way through the side of Oxford.
Very comfortable team fight there, and well, Decidueye is still not Decidueye, although as I say that, it just evolves.
Yep. Just gonna clear out some Swablues and an Altaria. Azumarill now looking topside along with some friends. Mime gonna unite in, CCing the Cinderace. Cinderace having a really hard time dealing with Unite, and there is that support damage coming out from Isaac to Knife. Lay down, eject button into the Blastoise Unite will secure this push very, very nicely for UCL. Lucky not just in just yet, but it should be very soon. The damage is still present, just a Slowbro on the point. Able to hold on pretty well, actually, where Oxford might be able to fight back.
Oh, there we go, it's in right on the very edge. Alright, UCL making its way. Oh, successfully. Ooh, oh, they unite. Takes out the Dragapult, but UCL more or less coming out unscathed from that battle.
The point is, you got the scores in, and at this point in the game, with no objectives up, nothing really substantial, this is still on respawn. I mean, Mime's respawn now. And
Mime respawn right in front of the enemy, but still manages to get over.
Yeah, it really doesn't matter, like, dying at that point in the game. It doesn't actually amount to anything substantial for Oxford to be able to capitalize on. They are now grouped around. UCL actually don't have as many members as Espeon on the top side, so it should be a 4v4 once the Dragapult comes in. Only one Unite on each side. There's Trevenant, there's the Unite coming through, a double. The CC, so much AoE damage from UCL, just laying it down straight onto Oxford. Having to fall back. Decidueye gonna throw out some leaves. Here comes the Mime to interrupt, do a little bit of damage. They take out the goal zone, and Mime right here being an absolute menace to society.
It really is. That the clown has come out to play. Its barriers, effectively cutting off Oxford and not allowing Cinderace to kite around.
to see who wins the race in the end. Cinderace here not going at the pace it necessarily wants to. Lecky gonna get started up right on timer. Oxford unable to react in time. This should be Berg just beforehand. No piercing arrow able to secure coming out from John Cena.
Wondering how is UCL going to do it? Is this the overextension? No, UCL wisely, but might take out the Cinderace before they go.
Okay, Lecky, easy enough to defend against given the position, but what UCL can now do is start getting farm across the map and scoring in this boss side.
It's just the round, it's just the Sidrai trying to defend, but all 3 members of UCL present. Yes.
Just continues to fire off a few Spirit Shackles and a little bit of poke damage, doesn't really hurt. Also doesn't really do anything at this point in the game, but still worth a try. UCL in a massive lead here at the 2-minute 50 mark. Oxford now really having to need to get the objective. Cinderace going to get caught out. Managed to escape, although the kill here wouldn't have meant that much if UCL did kill Cinderace here. All it means is that Cinderace does still respawn in time for the objective, so it's irrelevant. Kills though coming up, and the next 10 seconds or so will be relevant to the objective setup.
Exactly. No farm on the side of UCL's map. UCL just taking out this Regi's the final bit of objective before Ray.
Alright, Unites.
And Oxford not even trying to contest, instead just grouping around and positioning themselves. Ray.
Drona's in the middle of everyone. Maybe getting a pick
though.
could put you in a good position. Drona too tanky though. Here comes the zoning mine looking to do something. UCL know they don't need to do this objective. The onus is on Oxford. Unite from Blastoise doesn't actually hit, but still gets into the back line. Sidgewai keeping themselves stationary. Means the rest of the forces of UCL can capitalize on Oxford's position. Therefore, this team fight should be a very, very clean, easy win. A complete whitewash of a team fight. Nobody even dropped.
Yeah, very comfortable team fight for UCL. Completely zoned out Oxford from the Ray pit. And they take Ray basically uncontested. It is basically UCL's game to lose at this point, but it looks like that they are just going to push their advantage even further.
And Quasar seals the fate of Oxford. 50 dunks coming in straight into the enemy goal zone. 666, that is a demonic number to end the series.
That is a demonic number, much like how we've been playing against Oxford in this match.
Just to 11.
UCL all getting out of the pit, basically unscathed with all of their tier zones open.
Oh well. 66 times the points. Maybe Oxford can change that a little bit. Nope. Slowbro gonna get evaporated, and next on the menu will be a little Aqua Rabbit. Looking to dine on that.
Oh, a very perfect eject button in the Unite by Altina to just really secure that kill on the Azumarill. A little fight happening out bottom lane, but the Rabbit is also cleared out. And it's a full team wipe once again. UCL pushing for the last 10 seconds of the semi-finals to book their place in the grand finals. We are having a London final.
There it is. This time, not UCL versus the cooler UCL, but versus the rivals of King's College London, always seeming to match up against each other in various events.
Yeah, this is the rematch that UCL so desires from having lost against them in a round-robin format.
Huge narrative stakes coming in. The only score being 11 points from this little Slowbro in the top side. That was a very different face of Oxford, let's say, in this final game, despite that. Cinderace and Sidgewai pumping out pretty decent DPS numbers, still paling in comparison to the enemy Blastoise consistently topping damage charts this series.
Yeah, this Blastoise is a menace. It zones out. It zones out, it does its damage. It knows what it's doing. And with that, we have finished all of our matches, semi-finals. And right now, I'm not sure if the captains of... considering both captains were not playing in this match, actually, I'm just going to send them out a message if they want to join us on stream.
Or just players in general, whoever decides they want to join in, they can join in. as you can see here, I'm just this scene has these players set up, but they will not necessarily be the players coming on stream. We'll see what happens shortly.
Yeah, both captains having to sub out today, so they're probably going to be nominating an individual each. Very exciting match, very enjoyable. Thank you very much to both UCL and Oxford for playing a very exhilarating 3-matches series.
Yeah, very exciting to watch, that's for sure. Would have liked to see, it's good to see at least one of the 2 series go to 3. And then, well,
Yes.
you set it up with rematch of the finals, and I wonder if UCL will do another salty run back then.
That'd be quite hilarious. And I think we have the captain of UCL actually going to live stream chat with IQ, I guess. IQ, the Cinderace player. So both players are now in the chat. So I would jump in real quick for that.
Ah, yeah, I see. Okay, we're just gonna move down there, don't we?
Oh.
Oh,
Well, I was
hello.
going to say before we end up on stream, but I'm not going to do that now.
Hello.
Hello.
Alright, if you
Hello,
want-
hello.
That's alright. It's
You're
it's
not
the
a
end. It's the end of
captain,
the
please
day.
Okay, I'm gonna head
well,
out. See you guys.
All right, congratulations, UCL, on your win, and well done, Oxford, for pushing UCL to 3 games in the semifinals. So we just have a few questions for you guys. It's just, I guess it's just open to both teams. So in preparations for the semifinal matches, were there any players or any characters in particular that you were worried about? And did your team comms reflect this? Or how did you try to adapt to these characters or players that you're particularly worried about?
Who's going first?
You can go first if you want.
Okay. So, in preparation, for this, I kind of already had scouted UCL a bunch before, and kind of knew how they played, and I saw quite a few weaknesses in them, being a lot of kind of undecisiveness when it comes to raids and objectives. I feel like it is like in general the Dreadnought division focus more on objectives, whereas UCL focus on like not losing. Well, the Rotom division even focus like they always left someone top for the first spot Reggie. So I could already tell that like yeah, okay, if we try push objectives, then we have like a decent chance of winning this. Also, them being indecisive at Ray versus, especially in like the KCL game, which cost them it, and cost them the first game there as well. So yeah, in preparation, I made an entire strategy about potentially like rotating comps, like quick, fast rotates to catch them off guard, including jungle invades and that, which all kind of relied on Seb running Hooper. And then Seb's switch decided not to connect. So that entire strategy that I had come up with and planned just fell out the window. So we just kind of got in a supporter main. I was like, okay, we'll just go for comfy Shifu, and yeah, go from there. To be honest, we weren't really focused on what they could do. It was more focused. Our strategy was more to focus on putting pressure on them.
Yeah, I can definitely see that, especially in game 1. Like, you guys really took full advantage of the Ray fight, and when Scotland did your own little thing, and UCL was just still lingering around the Ray pit. And I guess for Zara, on your side at least, how do you guys prepare in for this match against Oxford? And were you guys like particularly worried about anything, considering that you are facing against the highest damage Cinderace in this entire tournament?
Yeah, that was something that we did think about a lot. We did see that they were playing a lot of attackers, so we did want to make sure that we were like looking into the attackers. I'm not gonna lie, their comp did kind of like throw us off when we first saw it in the first match with the Shifu, Comfey, Gardevoir. Even though it is something that we kind of play, I guess it did like throw us off a little bit. But I guess in the second match, they knew how to deal with it. So yeah, that is how it works. But we were kind of worried about the attackers and trying to like work around those and making sure that we can deal with them before anything else. So that was mainly what we were preparing for.
I see, and I guess it worked quite successfully because that brings us to the next question. I noticed for Oxford, you guys changed your team comp for the last match to better deal with the comp that UCL has been bringing. But I noticed from the side of UCL, you guys just went with the exact same comp for all 3 matches. Dan and I were discussing that there's a bit of a salty run back, to prove that the comp can work for the next 2 matches. Was there a reason for the team comp shift, I guess, on the side of Oxford? And for UCL, why do you guys choose to just stick to the same comp for all 3 matches if it didn't work out the first time round?
Yeah, so for the first match, I managed to kind of like stack a lot. It was kind of all based on using God of War ult to kind of unite to like single someone off with Slowbro as well, and then just work from there, win the 5v4 hopefully. And that worked quite well because also I was able to stack and I wasn't stunned as much. But in that second game, I swear I received every single stun they threw out, so I just couldn't really move in team fights, and I never managed to get off the stacks as well. And yeah, we just kind of disadvantaged from that. So we said, okay, let's just try hyper offense and like what we did with going like melee attackers. And unfortunately that did not work. It's just I feel like Trevenant is like so oppressive right now. Like its ability to just walk into a backline and get away with it, it's like insane. And yeah, we just couldn't really punish that. So yeah.
I see. I guess the Trevenant was a little bit of a menace. Like we kept noting that it just kept walking into your backline, do a bit of a boinks with a wood hammer, and walk back out alive. And so I guess from UCL's side, was there a reason that you guys chose to stick with all 3 comp? Because I believe this is only the second appearance of Dragapult in the tournament.
Yeah, let me redirect this to our player because I wasn't playing, but yeah.
Oh, yeah, so it was a bit of a last minute practice thing because our main damage dealer, which is the guard, Zara, wasn't playing this week. So we had a bit of practice to swap out our comp. The reason we went for the comp all 3 times is actually because we actually built our comp around countering things like Cinderace, things like squishy damage dealers that jump into the back line, which is why we were kind of taken aback by the first game really, because the comp ended up a bit more tanky when we realized. Because I could say that when we were scouting Oxford, we noticed that a lot of the time they didn't run any defenders, sometimes not even no supporters. So we kind of ran like a comp that could like single out any damage dealers or like ADCs and take them out. But it didn't end up working out the first game because we were a bit too passive, I feel. We pushed it back in the second game. But I will say that we were a little happier to actually see both the Cinderace and the Decidueye in the third game, because it's actually what our comp was meant to target in the first place. And we kind of expected after the second loss, the Oxford may swap up their comp back to like their classics, which is why we kind of stuck with the same comp in the third game, because it's kind of what our comp was meant to deal with in the first place.
I see. So there was a bit of mind games going on from UCL. Oxford, do you have anything to say in response to that?
Yeah. The entire idea of the first comp, well, no matter what comp we were kind of running, going into the first map, I would never be on Cinderace because I just expected it to be like hard focus and hard counters. I was like, okay, I've got to clearly do something else. So yeah, the Urshifu worked quite well. Yeah, I had scouted them before, and I know we don't run many defenders, so about half an hour before the game, I taught Emma, or what's it?
Tick click.
Emma or Thick Click, yeah, I taught her how to play Slowbro about 30 minutes before the game, so we can run like a Slowbro comp, and yeah, that's kind of it.
Alright, that is quite interesting actually, hearing the reasoning between both sides, because it seems that UCL very much has scouted you guys, and likewise for you guys, and scouting out UCL and observing the plays made. We were commenting as well earlier on that Oxford and UCL are lovers of overextending. So we were wondering how the matches would play out, and we got 3 matches in the end. So, and I guess as a final say for both of you guys, is there any special like shout outs or thanks that you guys want to make to anyone?
I mean, I can just shout out the team. I mean, we, I think in that game we had 2 people total from Oxford because of all the fills. But yeah, just shout out the team. Like I know, like the big Cinderace damage is like quite noticeable, but I can't do what I do on Cinderace without the other guys. So yeah.
Yeah, that's. I mean. So, Zara, from your side, is there any shout outs that you would like to give?
Well, I didn't play this week, so I would love to give a shout out to my team for just being the team that I can always trust. I know they always know how to come up with like some of the best comps, just everything that works for ourselves. So I'd love to shout out my team because they're always just trustworthy and amazing. And yeah, if Ethan wants to say anything.
I mean, yeah, same. I'll shout out team because I guess we do play kind of our comfort picks. So shout outs to Azel for being like the best tree you can have, tanking 100k damage a game. Shout outs to Trevor for being the Blastoise that gets all the team fights by digging to the back line. For Isaac for just generally being a cracked mime. And of course to Ro, our resident Espeon main, who is extremely happy with Espeon buff and secures all the last hits.
I love a Roy moment as well.
That's
okay. And thanks for Zara for being the team we build around every single week. And just so happened that the 1 week we can't build around is the 1 week we can't build around the guard just dominating jungle.
I mean, that's very nice of you guys to be giving shout outs to the team, and I think that is all we have for the semi-finals today. Thank you everyone for joining us. Our grand finals are going to happen next week, and it's going to be a London finals, a rematch of some sort with KCL and UCL. And it seems as though if we were to have our 3rd place match go through as well, it would be a full cycle coming back together as per se, because Oxford and Hall did face each other off in the very first week too.
All the rematches going around. Definitely not narratives to come through with that. It should be interesting to watch, of course, and then we'll get to crown the winner next week.
Exactly, yes. Thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you to all the players that have played in the tournament. And we will see you guys next week.